Hello, everyone. Welcome to Natty News, the nattiest news show in the world. My name is Anwar and Natty, and I am joined once again with my co-host Pat Bench Press. Woo! Pat, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. That's a new bench press title for the topic of the week today. Yeah, no, I'm
Well,
doing good today though.
Pat, people know how much you love bench pressing. I mean, it's your middle name. When you came out of your mom's womb, your dad was like, "Look at this, my son. He's gonna be a great bench presser," and you were, and you are one of the legends of the bench press. It's basically between you and George Hackenschmidt when you people think of bench pressing. And I know you've been very heartbroken with the new rules and the changes happening to your favorite lift.
That's absolutely true. I've been, since my injury, I've been really trying to come back and hit a huge bench press at my next competition. Uh, you know, and yeah, it sucks. They're ruining it, so I don't know how I'm gonna do a bench press without my snatch grip anymore.
D- Has anyone ever thought about instead of doing the clean and jerk, doing the clean and bench press where you clean the weight, put it on the bench, and then you bench press it?
Anwar, I've kind of done a similar thing because if you hit a clean, right, and you catch it, normally you catch it and then you stand back up. But if you catch it on your heels a lot, then you can kind of just fall backwards and you're on the ground, and then you can get a superset going with a bench press.
Dude, that is an efficient use of time. I would love to watch that event, the clean and flow press. That would be a good event to watch.
It'd be great to see like how much weight someone could do. How much weight do you think you could do on a clean and bench press for one rep?
Oh man, well I'm not the best cleaner. Maybe I could do 2 plates. I think I could do 2 plates.
That Anwar, that's the point though. You can end up on the ground.
Yeah, that's true. So like the clean doesn't really matter. It's mostly like how much can you floor press?
But the rule is like when you get under, the bar needs to be directly underneath your chest. So you can't just like never lift. You have to lift the bar and like flip it over. You can get
I would
crushed by it.
be kind of concerned with falling over backwards with so much weight too, though. I don't know. It seems like it would be a risky lift. That's what would be fun about watching it. It would be a brave man and woman's lift.
That's a skill. You think you can do 2 plates?
I don't know. Now I'm getting a little too confident. You know what? Maybe I think I'm being a little overly confident here. I think I could do a plate. I could feel confident I could do a plate.
Okay. Yeah, I agree with that. A
But
floor press.
getting back on some more serious tone, how has your injury been? I know a lot of the viewers listened to it last week. How have you been holding up?
It's coming along this week. It's I got up to the snatches were horrible this week, so I'm not even gonna discuss the whole idea of it. I don't want to see a snatch again for a week, but I clean and jerked 130, so that's close to about 90%. So that was pretty good, and I think I've identified something that I and something that I'm very passionate about in rehab, but I forgot about for myself, which is in late stage rehab of an injury, the last step, it's not over when pain is gone. It's over when the injured side is almost as strong as the uninjured side, right? And I think I've kind of found out this week when I'm shoulder pressing only 40-pound dumbbells and side raising 15s and failing to military press 70 kilos. I think I realized the low hanging fruit is I just have to get that left arm stronger. I just need some upper body gains. So it's kind of good that I'm finding that out. So I have a month to go till comp. So just gonna go as hard as I can, and there's not much pain holding me back. So it's just about getting some strong arms.
Yeah, man. I mean, hey, being able to clean and jerk 130 pounds. I mean, that's some big numbers, man. That's impressive.
Pounds. Yeah, yeah. It's
We all
no, it's good. If I work really hard, I might be able to do 135 pounds. One plate clean and jerk.
we only use freedom units here in Natty News. None of this kilos over here. Who would want to lift less? Come on, pounds all the way.
That's true. Pounds are heavier.
Yeah, because it's a bigger number. It has to be heavier. That's how it works.
Yeah.
Oh man. But no, I'm glad to hear that. And that is like an interesting thing. And like muscle imbalances, it's really a funny thing because I feel like oftentimes we don't notice it until it's way too late. And like kind of how did you really diagnose that you're having this like issue and like imbalances?
I mean, I think it's more of a surprise that I actually it's not that I missed it. I think I was trying to convince myself that I was ready to go, and I think this is a relatable experience for anyone who's gone through an injury that you get hurt. The first thing is that it hurts, right? And the priority is always about like getting your movement back and then getting pain free. But I think the part that's overlooked is that if you didn't do enough intensity of strengthening and one side is still 30% weaker than the other, then not only are you more likely to get hurt, like it's very logical that your performance isn't better, right? So I was expecting myself and placing high expectations to have my peak level of strength in my Olympic lifting, but the truth is I just don't have the strength. So it would be kind of delusional to think that thought. So yeah, it really was that, right? And then obviously seeing my accessory lifts, like seeing my pressing and rowing and pull-ups, like all those things are way off from what I've done 1, 2, or even 3 years ago. So yeah, that's kind of how I got through to it.
Oh man. Um Well, anyways, I wish you the best of luck and excited to see how that journey goes for you. But anyways, so as people probably guessed, this episode we want to break some we want to break some news. You know, this is Natty News. This is first and foremost a news organization. I know people really want to know what's going on in the Natty world. And Pat, big news: the bench press has changed. I think a lot of people have maybe seen on Instagram or YouTube of those crazy bench videos of people like arcing their back like some sort of gymnast and then moving the weight maybe a couple inches and then throwing huge numbers like you'd have like a 56 kg lifter ending up benching like 315, which it was mind blowing. It truly is a phenomenal skill to acquire, but those days are gone. What can you maybe tell the listeners what is the new rule?
Yeah, so the new rules, as I understand them, as of January 2023, is uh, they're going to try to eliminate those massive arches, those exceedingly wide grips, in attempt to have more kind of uh, more of an equal range of motion between lifters. So the new criteria in the bench press, aside from all the other previous ones, is that the bottom of your elbow joint must be level or lower to the ground than the top of the shoulder joint. So you could roughly say that's 90 degrees. That's kind of the criteria minimum. The second new criteria is that in the setup, the lifter cannot put their feet on the bench. And I think that one's pretty significant because I think a lot of lifters, even if you're not major arching, would tend to do that. They put their feet on the bench and then they use that to kind of form their bridge before they put their feet down. So I think it's going to be very big changes. It's going to be crazy to see how it affects, someone's bench press at this point.
Yeah, dude, I think the feet on the bench is actually a more impactful one because I think most high level benches all do that.
Yeah, right. It's just it's a technical thing, and the more good lifters that did it, the more people will. Why wouldn't you, right? Do what the best are doing.
So, what do you think of this rule, Pat? What's your initial opinion? Do you think the IPF is going the right way, or is this kind of a mistake?
I think being unbiased about it, I think in the long term, it's all gonna work itself out. Um, you know, it's it seems like it's making it almost a lot comparable to the squat, where the squat has a kind of a depth requirement. Then the bench press now also has a depth requirement. But what I sort of fear is that I think they're going to run into the same problem as a squat, which is measuring depth, right? Because in the squat, it's about the knee being level to the hip crease, right? And here it's the elbow being level to the shoulder. The problem is that a lot of these are very muscular lifters wearing the singlets. Even as someone who studies physio, looking at a picture, it's not easy for me to kind of pinpoint where the shoulder joint is, right? And I think they're going to run into a lot of situations where one person's going to red light, one person's going to red light, going to white light due to a difference in perception of what they perceive as the joint angles. And I think, yeah, it's going to be very tricky even for athletes to practice themselves. Like now they have to kind of film, and coaches have to learn a whole new method of measurement. So I think it's going to be quite a bit of chaos for a little bit. And I think we'll see where it goes. I think it's going to be pretty chaotic.
Yeah, I kind of feel the same with it, where I feel like you're adding in a bunch of human error now, because like I was looking at some of the pictures the IPF had of like good examples and bad examples, and like some of them I'm like they look the same. It looks like the same like angle and everything. Like everything looks the same, but one of them is apparently good and one of them is bad, and especially, you're only getting a good look of it for like a second before they start pressing. So it's kind of a hard thing to make a judgment on. And similar with the squat, I mean, you always see controversies about, oh, did they hit depth? Did they not hit depth? And it can be it adds more uncertainty to what is kind of known as a very precision-based sport. Like normally powerlifting doesn't have any luck element to it, but now you have this complexity in judging, which makes it kind of inconsistent if you're going to get the lift or not the lift and all that.
Definitely. And I wanted to kind of add one more point to illustrate this. So in PT school, we learn to measure joint angles. We use these things called goniometers. They're kind of like protractors, right? And you know, as physios, we're professionally trained to be able to perform these measurements, right, of joint angles. So, for example, we could do a relative shoulder angle, relative elbow angle. Even for us, right, in the research, it's been shown that our measurement errors are 5 to 10 degrees, right? And we are people who are supposed to be kind of the experts in this, right? And I don't know how deeply powerlifting judges are trained, but they're watching from a distance, they're not measuring up close, and they get a brief second. And it really brings the question how accurately they're actually going to be able to consistently make this measurement. And it's going to suck for a lot of people to have missed lifts based on, them being perceived to be 84 degrees instead of 90 degrees.
And that's really good you brought that up, because then like if your measurement tools have a tolerance of like 5-10 degrees, there's no way the human eye can then figure that out in a second to know if one is 90 and another one's only 87.
Definitely. And it's, as an objective measure, it's terrible as an eye test. Like we talk about this in school all the time, or prof joke about it. Like they're like, don't worry about like pulling out your measurement tools as much unless it's for a specific charting purpose. But like a lot of cases, like you might not do a lot better than an eye test, and there's going to be relativity. And I think the first step is like acknowledging that our human eye is not as accurate as we think in a lot of cases.
Yeah, and so we're talking a little bit about some of the criticisms of this rule. Now, kind of being on the other side, I do see where they're coming from, because, you watch some of these videos and in a way, some of them look a little silly, where it is a very skillful thing to be able to arc your back, support that much weight, and stay controlled and not just like collapse and snap your spine. Like, there's definitely a lot of skill and technique, but like, the idea of a bench press for powerlifting is like, oh, to test your upper body strength. Now, even though you have a lot of mobility and stuff, is really having a very extreme arc. Does that really indicate that you have stronger upper body than someone who did it flat?
Yeah, I mean, I think my counterpoint to that is that I don't think any lift in any strength sport is really meant to showcase like particularly upper body strength or whatnot. Like I think you'll have, even if you compare to Olympic weightlifting, I don't think the snatch is actually that. I don't think like a clean and jerk is a very good show of any one particular aspect of strength. In fact, I think a lot of people clean and jerk without being extremely strong. So, as a sport thing, I think measures what it measures, but I also can agree that it's not very like audience friendly in a lot of cases to have that super wide grip, super big arch, and small range of motion.
Well, Pat, in moments like this, I think it's important to see the history and really kind of understand where it came from. And longtime Natty News listeners know the name George Hackenschmidt. George Hackenschmidt, inventor of the bench press. Do you think he would like how the bench press looks with these crazy arcs?
George definitely would not. George was a old school strongman, and he would just want to plop down the bench and use your arms and go. That I think that's definitely how he would do it.
You see, Pat, I actually counteract you. I don't think George would like that either. Actually, you know how George got the inspiration for the bench press?
No,
Have you ever
at
seen
all.
have you seen a wrestler's bridge?
Yes.
Okay, so you know how like they have that bridge and then they have like they're on their head and like it helps train their neck and stuff, right? So George, the inspiration for the bench press is something he used to do is he would be in a wrestler's bridge and then he would take a barbell and then bring it onto his chest and then he would do reps of the weight on that. He's actually been seen doing 335 pounds in that position. So George believes in arcing. George, he came up with the bench press with the arc in mind, but it's about maybe not excessive arc. And I feel like the problem is the Powerlifting Association wants to keep that true. They want to keep the true nature of what George wanted, but they don't want it to be too excessive. So it's a tough thing to call.
Yeah, it's tough. I just think it's extremely hard to objectify. I kind of wonder what type of research or reasoning went into that specific measurement. I think it'll be tough. I think one thing they could have done is to regulate the width of the barbell, which I think they did, but I don't think they actually shortened it by much.
See, I kind of feel the inspiration for this, and maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like powerlifting, it's a very popular recreation for people. A lot of people go to the gym, a lot of people train to get stronger, and it's great. But the actual sport, not many people watch it. So I think one of the things they want to try to do is people often make memes and jokes about the bench press, and especially when people do these crazy arcs. And so they want to try to legitimize it and make it most like make it feel more like a real sport and something people can watch and sit down with. So I feel like that was a motivation, but I don't know if it does that. I think that powerlifting has bigger issues on why people don't want to watch it.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that point, and that's actually interesting. I have an experience from a couple years back. I was doing some cheerleading. That's the competitive sport where you do there's stunting, tumbling, and pyramid building, and there was also like a dance aspect. And I remember in 2019 they were trying to start to vie for the Olympics, and it was interesting because they changed the routine formats. I think they started to eliminate the dance from a lot of the national team routines in a way to kind of legitimize the sport and make it more professional looking. So that's an interesting point you bring up, and I kind of agree with that. I kind of agree that's one of the rationales they had to make that rule change.
See, it's funny though. I feel like powerlifting, in my opinion, the biggest issue I have with it is it's super boring to watch. Would you agree with that assessment?
Yeah, it's unless you have someone very important to you that then it like and I think unless you know the people there, it's then it becomes very impactful. And the same as weightlifting, right? I'm not talking shit one or the other, but yeah, it can be quite dry if there's no context.
I'd go watch a baseball game with some friends and all that. But I wouldn't be like, hey guys, you want to go see the powerlifting meet happening? We can go get some brewskis and watch some people lift some heavy weights.
Yeah, right. And I think you know I wish I've had more experience going to powerlifting meets and I'd be able to speak more on it, but it'd be nice for it to become more of a viewer friendly sport. As honestly though, as with many sports, I think a lot of sports, especially the smaller, not as mainstream ones, could use a lot more on that end, like making the sport more fun for spectators.
Do you have If you could become the head of the IPF and your job was to make powerlifting more entertaining, what would you do? I have my ideas, but I would want to know what you would do.
You know what? I did. So I one of my like last experiences, I was watching a little bit of powerlifting worlds online, and this was a couple months ago. I want to say in May. They actually did a pretty good job. Oh, actually, this might have been nationals. It was some sort of powerlifting competition, but they had a commentator. And honestly, I find color commentary is very helpful in a lot of sports. And what's the name of the lifter? Where do they hail from? And what does this mean lift to them? Like if they're deadlifting 160, what's their best? Is this a personal best attempt? Is this a national record? Is this attempt to overtake the person in second place? I think honestly context. Like I think a lot of things missing when people watch sports. Like I've watched baseball and football before, and because I don't get the sport, I'm bored, right? But a lot of times if you can add some context information, that's alone makes it more fun. I think that's an easy step, and I think you should always be educating the viewers anyways.
I agree with you. I actually think a good commentator can make any event fun to watch. So that's actually a really good point. See, I also think, Pat, well, I will never do this. I absolutely love watching equipped powerlifting videos. I think they're one of the most fun type of videos to watch when it comes to lifting weights. And what I like about equipped powerlifting is, from my outsider perspective, the rules do not matter. It is bananas. It is absolute chaos. You have these huge gorillas of men and women who are like taking like so many ammonia salts where they can't even see clearly. They're wearing this like Iron Man suit of contraption of leather, just disfiguring their body parts. They get under insane amount of weight with people yelling and heavy metal blasting through the stereos, and you see them maybe squat 2 inches while just like their head turns to a tomato, and then everyone is screaming, and then they just like push around their friends, and it is a fiesta, man. I love watching equipped powerlifting videos. I think it is the most entertaining type of lifting sport.
I don't know how much I can agree, but I've seen some clips. I think equipped powerlifting is ridiculous,
And
so
I mean,
ridiculous.
I don't even know what their rules are for depth, because like I actually do sometimes see videos of guys squatting actually decent depth, and then you see some other ones where it's like literally like 2 inches, and it's like, oh, world record, yeah, let's go, and I'm like, what's going on? This is insane, but it is so much fun. It's addicting.
It's just so wild. Like I think environment matters, right? Like that's yeah, like the environment, the crowd really matters. And one case study of when this suffered was when 2020, when everything was locked down, and even like NBA, hockey, tennis, like having no crowds there, those sports which are usually so popular became kind of depressing to watch. So you're absolutely right. Like the environment matters a lot in every single sport.
But I also think, like, I don't know, I kind of like the loose rules they have. I feel like when you get too into the rules, it kind of takes away some of the fun.
Yeah, but there's kind of that debate between loose rules and then legitimizing the sport. And I think as any sport goes towards legitimacy, you kind of have to like straighten out the rules, don't you?
I guess so, but then I also kind of think of like, Pat, you and I, we both love strongman. Like strongman, I actually think is such a fun sport to watch. And one thing I like about strongman is, while there are rules, they kind of implement them kind of loosely. Like I remember watching one video where it was like they would put a weight on the bar and you do the max clean and jerks. And so what one guy did is, when he was at the top of the jerk, he would just throw the weight down and then catch it again, so he didn't have to clean it. So he would just like slam up, bounce the barbell like it was like a basketball, get it back up, and then just jerk it up and repeat. And he got like 10 more reps than the guy in second that was previously in first. And I mean, I kind of like that. I like how crazy strongman can be.
Yeah, I've read about strongman typical competition rules before. They tend to be a lot more. This is kind of funny going back to last week. They tend to be a lot more kind of outcome based than process based. Like most of the events, the rules are like clean and jerk. You must take the weight on the ground to your shoulders, and it must go overhead. Do it as many times as you can in 1 minute. There's nothing about like elbow press out. It must touch the ground. Like a lot of the rules kind of are like that. Like just get the task done however way you can.
See, like I guess I mean you will never see strongman in the Olympics. There is no way that will happen. But it is so much fun because of that. It really is very enjoyable. I kind of see it like Pat, you're a fan of professional wrestling, right?
I'm seeing WWE next week.
Oh, baby. Okay, I can't wait to hear about how it goes. But like you probably don't enjoy watching like collegiate wrestling or amateur wrestling. Like you probably wouldn't enjoy it nearly as much because there's so much like little like rules and breaks, and you kind of lose the whole showmanship and fun of it. And there's nothing wrong with it. I mean, I think you do need to have legitimacy too in Spurge, but I also feel like there's a thing to say about having loose rules and just having fun with it.
Definitely, and I think the showmanship of sport is always my favorite part of it, right? Like definitely the most fun I've had watching some weightlifting is like seeing someone get hyped up, call out the crowd, get the energy going, swear at the coach, get back slaps. Like that's the stuff that kind of gives you memories.
Um, I feel like the IPF and all major powerlifting organizations try to be very serious and they're trying to gun to join the Olympics and stuff. And I wish there was like a federation where it was like, you know what, I don't care about the rules as long as the weight moves. That's all that matters.
Isn't that the unequipped? Isn't that the equipped?
That is the equipped, but I wish it was like a raw version where it was like, because like the equipped, I think sometimes the suits can be a little distracting, but I would kind of
Yeah.
like to have like a raw version of that where it's like they still have the same like kind of like loose rules for depth and all that, but they don't have them wearing like a Power Ranger suit.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. That's yeah, that'd be a fun thing to do, honestly. Yeah. Anytime something becomes a formal sport, I think it starts to become more serious, and then there's always that trade-off.
Exactly. I don't know. I just think I don't know how George Hackenschmidt would feel about how we currently do competitions, but you know what? Neither of us are competitors. I'm actually out of curiosity. From your friends who are competitors, how do they feel about this rule change? How do the actual athletes feel about it?
Really only talked to one person about it, and they definitely weren't too happy with it because I mean, it's a wholesale change into the way they lift, right? I think this must be like this is a very big change. Like I would kind of equate it to almost like when they changed the clean and press to clean and jerk. Like it's an entirely different technique, right? Like you're gonna have to change your arch on
Yeah,
top
that's
of, and then all your maxes get reset. Like you're gonna have to find out how much can I do here, and then you gotta struggle to reach depth on the bench, which never was a thought in anyone's life before this point.
Wait, I just thought about something. What happens to the old world record? Because, like, if let's say an old world record was using the old technique and now with the new one, is that record kind of like now almost impossible to break?
Isn't that interesting? Like it'd be interesting to do like a little like, it doesn't have to be formal, informal study. What happens to the average lifters lifts in their first year, the new rules? It'd be very interesting to see. I don't know. They might do better. Right? That's gonna be really interesting to see how it develops.
Maybe, yeah. Maybe it's like in the short term they go down, but in the long term, maybe they'll actually even do higher numbers. But yeah, I guess we'll have to wait and see the impact of this. But
Yeah,
yeah,
it's
anyways.
crazy.
Oh, go on.
Yeah, I just think it becomes when you had that grip, I think it's the mechanical demands of the movement will become very different. And I think it'll be interesting. I think certain people with certain body types might do better. Like some people who do bad with that crazy wide grip might be like, whoa, I'm already kicking it like this. This might be my time to shine.
Yeah, no, completely agree with that. Um, but anyways, we've been talking a lot about the bench press, and Pat, something I'm actually very curious about is why do we bench press? Because I feel like sometimes I just do it because it's expected of me. Whereas like, oh, you go to the gym, you're training your upper body, you go and do some bench press. It's like bread and butter. You can't train upper body without doing bench press. That's some heathen stuff. That you can't do that. But I was actually thinking, and from your expertise as an actual like soon to be physiotherapist, is the bench press truly an effective exercise to train your chest?
Um, this is an answer many years in the making. Bench press can be an effective way to train the chest, but I will say the flat bench press is not the most effective way. I wouldn't even say it's the second most effective way to train the chest, based on kind of its anatomy and based on kind of the way the barbell moves with the movement.
So what's kind of like the issues with bench press? So is it kind of like just because of like the restriction a barbell has where you have to kind of like lock your like arms in a certain position and stuff?
Yeah, so I think uh go back to the anatomy, which I think is always a good place to start. The the key objective of the chest muscle or the pectoralis muscle is to horizontally adduct. So that's a fancy term. So basically, it's like when you do chest flies. Like that's kind of the motion that it was made to do. Because of the line of fibers. Like the fibers of the muscle are horizontal, right? So you kind of activate the muscle by bringing your arms towards their sternum, right? And if you just take your hands, clap them together, squeeze them, that's how you do the chest pose, right? So when you do the chest press, inevitably by lowering the weight and pressing it back up, you do cause that horizontal adduction. Like that's what your shoulder does, but it's very limited. Like it's not the main thing that's happening, right? The main thing that's happening at the shoulder joint and at the elbow joint, mostly in like a flexion extension plane of movement. So you're not going to optimize the chest. You're going to work the chest, but you're also going to, as everybody knows, work the triceps and work the shoulders. And anytime we're doing a compound movement, the benefits are that it works multiple muscles, but the limitation is that it also works multiple muscles. So, there's a very good chance that if you have a very, very strong shoulder, you might not get much chest work out of it.
No, that's actually a good point. Do you still feel like a bench press would fit into a good upper body workout? Like forget just chest focus, but just in like general upper body strength. Do you think the bench press is a good judge of that?
Yeah, I think so. Especially in terms of the muscle in the anterior chain, like basically in the front of your body. Job of those muscles are to push, right? And the biggest muscle groups there are your pecs, your shoulders, and your triceps, and it does a great job of representing that, for sure. So in terms of two armed upper body pushing strength, bench press is very good.
So you were mentioning imbalances before, and this is something I always wonder. Like for a pure like hypertrophy perspective, like someone who doesn't care at all about competing in powerlifting, would it be better just to do dumbbell bench compared to doing a barbell bench?
I think there's certainly a place to mix it up, and at a certain point, preference comes in handy. But dumbbell bench has the unique benefit of working your arms independently, which is great because everyone's got a weaker arm. Secondly, because the weights are free flowing, right? You get to take them at a slight angle. If you turn your shoulders just slightly in, like at a 45-degree angle, you actually do get a better angle line of action to activate the chest compared to that sort of straight line locked in position that you have in the bench press. As well, because the weights are free flowing, you can kind of, when you press up towards the ceiling, slightly pull them towards the middle, and that adduction movement creates more chest activation. So I would argue that it is superior, and that's, I think, as many times as I've done dumbbell bench, I've definitely felt it more.
Angles just amazing.
You know more than I do. It's anatomy is pretty cool. Like every muscle, they don't just go horizontally and parallel, like they go at slight inclination. So dumbbells allow you to kind of follow those angles and in theory kind of optimize the stress we're creating.
Yeah, I'm crazy though, but like you were mentioning, shifting to have a 45-degree angle while doing the pressing can actually activate more of the fiber. Like that's crazy, and like it's just like these small details can really enhance kind of the potential muscle building you gain from it.
Yeah, definitely. And you know, back in the day, I remember people saying you should not have your arms at 90 degrees when you bench press because it gets your shoulders more and it doesn't get your chest. And you know, all these years of school later, I finally understand it. It's because of the line of the muscles. If you're way up there, you get more of your shoulders because that's where they're mechanically stronger. And then if you're able to put them more to 30 to 45 degrees, you get more chest. So it's pretty cool stuff.
Here's something actually I was thinking about. You know how people always do incline bench or incline dumbbells, and they always kind of say like, "Oh, it trains the upper chest." Can you truly train like specifically the upper chest, or is like the chest just like, or is this like the bench press is going to do all the chest normally? Like, is there a purpose in like isolating the upper chest? Is that even real?
Um, I do think so. I think uh, because the chest, the pec major muscle, even though it is considered one muscle, it has two heads. It has a clavicular head, so your like your clavicle, your collarbone. There's a set of fibers there. They're more kind of more horizontal actually, right? They're very close to your shoulder joint. And then there's the sternal fibers, which are connected to like your sternum's right in your midline, right? So those are kind of the middle to lower fibers. So when you work at an incline where you're kind of targeting more up, you're getting more shoulders and the upper chest when you do an incline press. And that makes sense because of where kind of those fibers are aligned.
Ah. No, no, that does actually make sense. So actually that change in like just the angle you're bench pressing can change which fibers are being in alignment. Man, look at this. Alignment of fibers, angles. Are we on Natty News? Are we in your physiology class?
It's halfway, right? This is some knowledge news for us.
Yeah, I mean, I think Pat's Physio Fact, this is an old segment we've kind of missed out on, but I always love hearing about it. I think like one of the beauties of Natty News is finding the in between of bro science and real science.
It's true, and the funny thing is that even in physio, there's actually a lot of. I'm gonna get canceled for saying this, but there's a little bit of bro science. Like there's a lot of modalities and treatments that we use where our rationale is literally, oh, it did better than placebo, so we're gonna go ahead and use it.
What's an example of bro science you do see in physio? Like I'm actually curious.
100%. Amber, do you know what like a Dr. Hose machine is?
No, I'm not familiar with this.
You know, like a TENS machine, like you put pads on you, electrodes, and then you turn a little dial, and then it kind of starts vibrating your muscle. It makes it twitch.
Oh yeah, yeah, I have seen those before.
Yeah, so they're uh, the TENS are little like portable devices, but there's also we were learning recently about this. It was called interferential current. It's like a big thousands of dollar machines that you have to put multiple electrodes. So essentially, the idea of it is it can reduce edema. It can uh, cause some muscle stimulus in muscles that are completely torn. It can help with like spastic muscles. But so when they look into the research, 90% of the research they do on it compares doing this treatment versus a placebo group that's got nothing to do with it. And it says, okay, it seems to modify pain, maybe. So I guess we'll use it. And it's kind of been like this, honestly, for a bunch of years. And the research is starting to change, but a lot of people, you know, it's very known. A lot of people have gone to physio clinics where they just slap you on these machines for the whole session. And basically, you could probably get the same effect by just like passively moving the joint around, doing some light exercises. And those are things that you can do for free rather than with $1,000 machine or paying to go to appointment all the time. And it's still you so have it. So like definitely bro science.
Pat, that is mind blowing. I actually, when I tore my hamstring, I actually did use that, and I actually remember there was a physio session where that's all they did, and I was like, oh man, look at this. This is some advanced science. But now you're telling me that that was literally a placebo. Wow, that's actually a yo. I'm canceling physiotherapy.
Like, and you don't want to call it like complete physio. Like, it can alter your perception of pain a little bit, right? And that's great. We talk about it all the time. But if you don't do anything about that, in 2 hours, your pain goes back up and you've done nothing for the better, right? Like if you got to supplement that with some exercises and some education about what the treatment does rather than just slapping it on and then see you next week for another bill, right? Like that's where it's really bad.
See, it's so insane that you have these incredibly smart people who, yeah, kind of still fall for some of the bro science and just like sometimes not the best logic. Dang, that is so interesting.
Yeah, and there's a there's kind of a lot more examples, but we can save them and keep sharing them in the coming weeks.
Yeah. Oh no, I always love hearing this. It's like a little inside scoop of what's going on behind the doors of physio.
I'm spilling the tea.
Yeah, oh man. Well, Pat, I think this was kind of a fun episode. We got to talk about bench press, something neither you and I are either huge experts on, but it's a fun conversation. I think I would really love to hear from people about, do you watch powerlifting? Do you actually enjoy watching it, and maybe why? Or if you don't, what's some things that could actually make it more interesting for you?
Yeah, definitely. Let us know or reach out to us, DM us, go on social media. We'd love to hear.
Yeah. Well, with that being said, is there anything else you wanted to add, Pat? Or are you good to wrap up?
Oh, I think this was good. It's talking about my favorite topic and favorite exercise. It was great.
Oh man, what a great way to spend a day. Well, anyways, thank you all for listening to Natty News, the nattiest news show in the world. My name is Anwar, and I hope you all continue making those natty gains. Natty News out.
Natty news out.